Now we're going to look at the order of operations, better known as PEMDAS. I'm sure a lot of you remember learning PEMDAS when you were in school. You probably learned some sort of a cute little catchphrase that goes with it. I always learned, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That was the phrase that I learned. I've also heard, people eat my Doritos and salsa. So whatever phrase you want to come up with, you can create your own. If you've got a good one, send it to me. I'll share it with the class. But PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, is the order that you should do math in when you have a multi-step problem with a bunch of different operations. So here's how the rules work, because most people know the order of operations, but sometimes they do them incorrectly. So I'm going to try to correct that with you guys so that you'll do them correctly. The first thing you always do, the P stands for parentheses. You always do whatever's in parentheses first, or you try to get rid of any parentheses that you have in your problem. So that comes first. The E stands for exponents. You always do exponents next. Handle those. What should be left in the problem then is multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. One or all four. The MD, this is where people mess up with PEMDAS, is because they assume that because it goes MD, you have to do them in that order. And I'm here to tell you that is not correct. Multiplication and division are essentially one and the same. Think about it. Division was defined as multiplication. So they're really the same thing, multiplication and or division, and you do them in the order of their appearance from left to right. And that is why most people miss PEMDAS problems when they miss PEMDAS problems, aside from making like silly little mistakes. This is also why people argue about this on social media. You'll see all these problems that are like, here's a math problem. What do you think the answer is? And then everybody argues about it in the comments. So stupid. I'm like, find something better to argue about if you're going to argue, but whatever. And this is usually where things go wrong, and this is why people argue. So if you have a string of multiplication and division, you just do them from left to right, which means you may do some division before you do some multiplication, and that's okay. So MD is not a hard order, like it's just all multiplication and or division as you go from left to right. And then what you have left at the end is addition and subtraction, which you can also do from left to right. So remember, subtraction is defined as addition. So the MD is really one thing and the AS is really one thing. And by the time you get to the end of it, by adding and subtracting, that's not usually where the mistakes are made. So we're going to go through and do a bunch of examples, and then hopefully you'll have a better handle on PEMDAS. So here we go. First one, 12 divided by 4 minus 8 times 2. The other mistake students make is they try to do too much at once. So try not to do too many steps all at once, just like one step at a time. So with this one, we're going to start with parentheses. We're going to do this first. And so 4 minus 8, if you're, think of a number line, if you're sitting at 4 and you subtract 8, you're going to end up at negative 4. And so you see, all I did, I recopied everything. I just did the part I underlined in green. Okay, so I'll put my equal sign over here. This line is equal to this line. Okay, now as I go from left to right, I don't have any exponents, right? So parentheses are gone. I don't have exponents. Now I'm going to do multiplication and division as they come from left to right. So as I go from left to right, this is the one I do first. And 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. And then what I'm left with is one little multiplication problem, and I'm going to end up getting negative 6 as my final answer. That's the proper way to do PEMDAS. The M and the D go from left to right. So then we can try this one. And again, at any time, like if you want to pause the video and try it, and then you can watch the rest of the video, see if you get it right. I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents. So we're going to start with the MD part, and we're going to go from left to right. So I'm going to do this guy first. That's the first one I see. That's the first one I do. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then I just recopy. Now I have a subtraction and I have a multiplication. You got to handle your multiplication first. You can think of that as negative 8 times 2, or you can just think of it as 8 times 2 with a negative in the front. Either way, it's going to be 3 minus 16. And then see, now all we're left with is just subtraction at the end. If you're at 3 on a number line and you subtract 16, you end up at negative 13. And you know, with just like a little dinky handheld calculator, you can check these and do some of the little arithmetic in the middle if you need to. All right, now the next ones, they're starting to look a little bit more complicated, but don't do too much at once. We're going to start with the parentheses, because I see some parentheses. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I'm going to go 5 times 2, that's to the third power, and I just recopy the rest. And sometimes mistakes are made on the recopying part, so be careful when you recopy. Now I know I still wrote parentheses there, but that's because of the exponent. So what I'm going to do next is this exponent portion. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So what I have is basically 5 times 8, and then I just recopy the rest. Okay, now I did my parentheses, I did my exponents. Now I'm going to do the MD part from left to right. I cannot emphasize it enough. So we're going to do this first. That's multiplication. So that's going to be 5 times 8 is 40. Now, come across left to right. Any multiplication or division, you want to handle it first here. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. Left to right, multiplication. One times 3 is just 3. And at this point, you should be able to just add and subtract all of that. So 40 plus 3 is 43. And if you subtract 2, you get 41. So the ending is not the hard part, it's all the stuff in the middle. The other reason that students miss these is they try to do too much in one step. And so if I can encourage you to just do one step at a time, I know it's a lot of writing and like recopying, but you're less likely to make a mistake if you just take it like one little bite at a time instead of trying to jam like 3 or 4 bites in your mouth all at once. So it's a good strategy. Okay, now the next one, we got all kinds of stuff going on. We got absolute value bars, we got square brackets, we've got round parentheses. Okay, absolute value bars, brackets, parentheses, they all fall under the category of parentheses. So we're going to handle those first. And I'm just going to kind of do them from left to right, I think. So I can deal with this absolute value because it's kind of like a parenthesis. And the absolute value of negative 24 is 24. Okay, now over here I also have brackets. So I've got my square brackets, but inside my square brackets I have these little parentheses. So you got to go all the way inside and then kind of work your way back out. So I'm going to work on this 9 minus 15 in here. If I take 9 minus 15, I get negative 6. So what's inside here is 4 times negative 6. And I know I just did 2 steps at once, I know, but these two parts are really separated by that division. So I've got absolute value done, and I've got the 9 minus 15 done. Okay, now I still got to keep working on parentheses. So because those are in brackets, I have to do those first. So I'm going to get 24 divided by 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And then you're just down here to the end. It's just a division problem. 24 divided by negative 24 is negative 1. So the absolute value bars act like parentheses. So please keep that in mind when y'all are doing your homework. And just a couple more. This is one that people would argue about on social media. 4 divided by 4 times 4 plus 4. The correct order to do those in is from left to right. Any multiplication and division first, then addition and subtraction. So you must do 4 divided by 4 first. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Then you're going to do your multiplication. 1 times 4 is just 4. And then 4 plus 4 is 8. If you do the multiplication first, let me show you how you're going to know that things are not right, at least at this point in our course. If you do 4 times 4 first, you get 16. When you go to do 4 divided by 16, you're not going to get a whole number. You're going to get a fraction. We haven't covered fractions yet. So you shouldn't be getting fraction or decimal answers at this point because we haven't covered those yet. So keep in mind kind of the progress of the course as you do these problems. So 8 is what you should get. They should turn out to be nice numbers. All right, F and G I put in here because I want you to understand the difference between how these two problems are worked. One of them has parentheses, the other one doesn't, and it makes a huge difference in the answer. So this, what's inside the parentheses is a negative number, and it's being raised to the 4th power. So that means the negative and the 2 are raised to the 4th power. They're both getting the 4th power. So this is like saying negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. It's literally 4 of those. Well, if you multiply 4 negatives together, 2 negatives make a positive. So these 2 will make a positive. These 2 will make a positive. Your answer is going to turn out to be positive. In fact, it's going to be positive 16. All those negatives are going to turn positive. So negative 2, negative 2, negative 2, negative 2, there's 4 of them. That's different than this problem. This problem doesn't have parentheses. So on this problem, the only thing that has the 4th power is the 2. Only the 2 has the 4th power. So you do your exponents first. So this would be a negative, and then 2 to the 4th is 16. You might say, well, the answers aren't that different. It's just a negative. They're about 32 apart from each other, so I would say that is actually a pretty big difference. So keep in mind, like the parentheses really do matter. So in this one, again, the 4th power is applied to everything inside the parentheses. Over here, the 4th power is only applied to the 2. So those are some tricky things that you want to think about when you're doing these PEMDAS problems.